Really quickly, lots of talk about what York Central is going to be and the word master plan. I'm going to try and cover off very quickly what our role is and what the master plan is. As a team, I'm supported and part of a team led by Syrett. Syrett are advising York Central on planning matters, also on technical matters such as transport, environment, ecology, archaeology. Our advice and the work that we'll put into the application covers a broad field that will inform the structure of the master plan submission and also the technical environmental impact assessments that support that. So we as an organisation cover with our lots of different things. We're also supported by Gustafsson, Porter and Bowman, whose name appeared on the images Tom just showed, and they are an award-winning landscape architect who've been informing the design of the park. So I'm not going to talk about what the master plan is because there's a public exhibition about to open and show you what that is. But what I'm going to do is try and say very quickly what is a master plan and what kind of influences us in putting this together. The master plan that you see, the plan that you'll see in the exhibition, is one way of building out a very kind of abstract framework, which is an outline application. So the master plan is actually a process which we're probably about 1.5 years into personally, but has been going on for the partnership for even longer. And it's a process of engagement, of talking to people, of learning, and of coming up with something that is a framework for the future for this site. What should that master plan do? Well, I'm going to use some really abstract kind of postcards that we put together for an exhibition. Basically, it should understand the past, it should understand the site as it is now, but also how it was before, and it should exploit that. This is a really amazing heritage site, and we want to learn from its history, from its topography, its setting within York, and that should inform the way we go forward in the future. We want to prioritise space over the buildings. This is a spatial framework for delivering a long-term vision for a piece of city. So it's not just about the buildings themselves that might provide offices or housing, but it's also about the streets, the parks, the places, the lanes, the yards. And we think it's as important that they work in making this a good piece of city as the buildings themselves. I think it's really important that it's legible too, that it should be a hierarchical piece of city which is easy to understand. People understand cities through landmarks, they can orientate themselves via the Minster or through a bridge, but equally then there's the sublanes and the vistas through and those little things that lead you through that make it a legible piece of city, and I think it's really important that we have that within this huge site in making it legible to those around. And part of that is making it connected. This is a very unconnected piece of York at the moment. And though Lehman Road is a route through it that everybody knows and a key connection to the city, actually making connections to the surrounding communities on the south side and on the north side, and creating a series of connections for cyclists, for cars, for buses, is really important in making this work, and there's going to be a lot of discussion about movement. Buildings need to equally just not end up as sort of floating islands in that spatial framework. They need to have strong fronts, they need to have strong backs in terms of where they're serviced, and they need to have sides. And it's really important that we define that in the master plan so that people understand where the front doors are and that that's a legible framework. So that's the kind of thing we'll be defining in the master plan framework. It's really important that it is something that we want to build today, that it meets the aspirations of the city. The city is looking for new homes, it's looking for new jobs, but equally we're going to need other things to support those, community infrastructure, and it's important that what we sort of put into the master plan delivers what's required now, but also delivers what we imagine is required for the future, or can deliver that. So it needs to be flexible, but understand really what is required in the city for now. We're not delivering a new piece of medieval city, what we're delivering is a new piece of city. This master plan that we show, this sort of indicative scheme, needs to provide a surrogate context. So when the first plots are built, people understand what might come forward in the future. And the rest of the master plan is there so that the architect that gets the challenge of delivering that first block of housing or that first office building understands what is planned in and around it. So it's important that people see it as a surrogate context for each building that comes forward, and as it becomes forward, that becomes the actual context for the future phases. The other thing we know is that things change. We've been working on King's Cross for around about 15 years now, and it's been through the recession and the resurgence, and we're now in the latter stages of delivering that, as we are with other master plans, and things change. You know, homes are delivered in different speeds to what might be expected, and it's important that we have flexibility in this master plan so that over 10 to 15 years we can deliver what the city wants. And that's not only uses, but that's quantum of car parking, that kind of thing. The other key thing is that values here are, have to be understood, and we have to be able to deliver quite simple building shapes and not make things overly complicated. So we have a sort of mantra of creating very straightforward and honest and workmanlike buildings, and then letting the spaces around them create the complexity. And you'll see that in the evolution of the railway park, kind of taking up the form of the site, and then quite straightforward buildings that frame it. We want it to be diverse. We don't want it to just be a homes and offices. We want it to be a mixed community. It's important that we promote that. But also we want to make sure that it looks beyond its boundaries and not just in on itself. So it's important that a good master plan looks out to its surrounding context and makes those connections. So I guess in summary, what we're in is a process, and it's a long process that will run way beyond the delivery of the outline application, not just an end product. And it's, I think, important that when you see the exhibition, you understand the process of what's going on, and that we're in just one stage of that journey, and that in terms of your views on that, you will be able to express them at future opportunities too, beyond the outline application, when things like reserved matters come forward for individual buildings. So that's my kind of 5 minutes if I've done it.
Thank you. Great, thank you so much.